Is there a rule that fluorescent lighting is not allowed to function correctly in anything related to the horror genre? Show is immediately testing my patience by starting with a jump scare. I know you want to dip a little bit of the King's horror into your nostalgia milk, but just know you are already on thin ice. Seriously, there's no stairs option in this highly fucking dangerous laboratory area. This Demogorgon is clearly trained in cinematic tension, because it waits a full 20 seconds before attacking its completely helpless prey. Who still has a sprinkler going in November? The night of November 6th, 1983 was below freezing in Indiana, so I'm pretty sure the Wheelers are just resource-wasting assholes.
We're so screwed if it's the Demogorgon.
It's not the Demogorgon.
Man, I love these kids together. If there was an Emmy for Best Ensemble Group of Children that give off 80s vibes and somehow aren't completely annoying, they would have it on lock. Yes, Knight Rider, staple of the 80s, and we want to make sure that you know this is the 80s, but considering Mrs. Wheeler just said it was a school night, and that they could finish their campaign next weekend, then Mike exclaimed that they'd been playing for 10 hours, you'd have to assume this is a Sunday, which is all well and good, but Knight Rider aired on Fridays in 1983. Man, we are filling up our 80s nostalgia bingo card real fast, because we have a full-on outbreak of kids on bikes going on. This show 1980 so hard it reminds me of the time I survived on a 3-pound bag of peanut M&Ms for a week. It seemed like a great idea for a while, and then it became increasingly clear I should have thrown in some protein every once in a while. Stranger Slender Man. How is this creature unlocking this from the outside? Even if telekinesis is one of its powers, would it really know about slide locks and how to release them? Really? We're gonna do the same, thought the monster was one direction, but it was actually a different direction twice in the first 8 minutes of the show? Will is still holding a loaded gun, but for some reason decides to lower it and wait for the attack instead of at least trying to shoot. This kid has been pretty smart up until now. Why the sudden case of lamb to the slaughter? This theme, man. Sometimes a song is so perfect for a show that you wonder if it existed first and then they built the show around it. This is one of those times. Perfection. Who the hell are the Duffer Brothers? Sure, the Coens, the Farrellys, the Wachowskis have paved the way for sibling teams to be a thing, but they still also use their first names in the credits, right? I guess I'll just have to make them up then. Sorry, Abner and Basil Duffer. This is your own fault. And in this very moment, as if a new David was being chiseled by Michelangelo, the phrase dad bod became an acceptable thing to say about another human being. If the waking up hungover with multiple empty beer cans on the coffee table, smoking shirtless outside, and smoking while putting deodorant on wasn't enough to convince you this man has a pretty serious alcohol problem and nicotine addiction, let's have him chase some pills with a beer just to hit that point home.
I believe you.
How did this phone get hung back up? Will let it fall after his failed 911 call. So did the Demogorgon come back through and tidy up? How considerate.
Step right up and get your tickets for the freak show.
Because Cosmo and Darby Duffer can't make sure we know it's the 80s without school bullies, meet Stranger Things' version of Tweedledum and Tweedledummer.
Midnight, frog face, or toothless?
That's racist, amphibist, and dentist.
Nance, seriously, you're gonna be so cool now, it's ridiculous.
No.
You know, if I had to pick an early favorite character for this series, it's gotta be Barb. She's such a good friend to Nancy and just takes no one's shit. She's her own person, and the depth the writers have given her will pay off for years to come. Good thing she's not going anywhere. Steve left this note early this morning, but when would he know that Nancy found it? Is he stalking the girl's bathroom from his arrival all the way until first period? I mean, yeah, probably, but man, teenage hormones are f***ed up. A makeout session in the bathroom? I'm sorry, I lived through the 80s. If there's one place we didn't make out, it was the bathroom. What teenage girl is braving this absolute germapalooza for some pre-class tongue wrestling? Also, how is no one else using this restroom at one of the busiest times of the school day? What kind of card game are these two playing, where Sergeant Random here is so carelessly showing his hand by facing backwards, and yet Hopper can save the day by moving one card around in a hand this guy's been staring at for the last 3 minutes?
Those garden gnomes again. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna get right on that.
Joyce Byers can't find her son this morning.
Okay, I'm gonna get on that.
Is holding a donut in your mouth the cop version of biting an apple? Because Hopper giving a sarcastic response to a missing child report is about the assholiest thing I can think of right now. Also, Flo couldn't have led with this. Are the garden gnomes really more important than a missing child? I know this is the 80s and all, but Jesus Christ. Also, here's an extra sin just for making me say the word gnome again after barely surviving that gnome movie nonsense. And now I'm realizing I'll probably have to send the sequel. Damn it!
99 out of 100 times kid goes missing, the kid is with a parent or a relative.
I assume this statistic was bullshit, so I did some research, and Jim's actually right. Less than 1% of child abductions are stranger danger things, but you still made me do the f***ing research show, so sin you I shall. If they took the precaution to seal the gloves to their sleeves with duct tape, And why wouldn't they have taken similar measures with their boots?
Guess where it came from?
Now, probably the other giant sentient goose-lathered portal in this lab area.
Remember, finish chapter 12 and answer 12.3.
Why in every television show and or movie is the teacher always yelling over the bell the homework assignment? Half the kids are already out of the classroom, and he should know when class ends. You can't stop a few seconds before and give out the homework assignment. And this is a very involved assignment. What if someone didn't hear the 12.3 part? Sorry, Matt, it's not my fault you left the classroom at the correct time when I was giving instructions.
Sorry, boys. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but
It came.
Don't these three have another class to get to? I guess hanging out with a grown adult in his office is a valid excuse for ditching.
Sorry to interrupt, but may I borrow Michael, Lucas, and Dustin?
Why is this, I'm going to say, principal pointing at and naming each of these boys? Both he, Sweater Vest Mustache, and the boys themselves already know this info. Wouldn't he just pop in and say, I need these three guys to come with me?
You ever heard of Mirkwood?
I have not. That sounds made up to me.
It's from Lord of the Rings.
Well, The Hobbit.
Doesn't matter.
How dare you, Lucas? This is exactly the reason Dustin has a job waiting for him on the Sins team whenever he wants it.
Poltergeist. I thought I wasn't allowed to see it.
As long as you don't have nightmares.
I don't get scared like that anymore.
Not even of clowns.
Spoiler alert! Also, pretty sure it's Mike that might want to keep clear of clowns in the future. Is Joyce just now looking here? Based on the flashbacks, this must be a place Will's frequently at.
Bike like this, like a Cadillac to these kids. Would have walked it home.
A bike like this might also be an active crime scene, so maybe don't be moving and handling the evidence until the folks from the hit spin-off CSI Hawkins arrive, okay? Well, how nice of Chester to conveniently start barking at the shed when Hopper came over. It's almost like he read the script.
Hey! Jesus!
Light bulbs in the Stranger Things universe have great dramatic timing, especially considering the monster should be long gone by now. Are they reacting to Hopper? Is he a Hopper Gorgon?
Thanks for coming out, Teach. We really appreciate it.
She died a few years back.
sorry?
His kid.
Geez, lady, do you go around knocking down the gutters on people's roofs, too? I mean, since you seem so good at eavesdropping. Good thing there's always a town gossip around when we need to get to some heavy-handed expositioning and pronoun gaming. Few things are more 80s than the boyfriend at the window trope, and Falcon and Grover Duffer continue to mainline that nostalgia. My problem is that it never takes the time to explore the deeper aspects of the things it's referencing, meaning we spend all of our time at the surface level, which is really only the tip of the Spielberg.
You know, it's funny. Your voice, it sounds different.
Oh my god, they killed Toby. They know what 11 is capable of, right? How did they think holding her at gunpoint was going to go down? Also, with all the 80s references in this film, not giving Matthew Modine a set of keys dangling from his pocket was a missed opportunity, no?
Which polymers occur naturally?
Starch and cellulose.
But those aren't the only examples of natural polymers, and the question didn't ask for a specific number. How would anyone pass this f***ing test?
You're an idiot, Steve Harrington.
You are beautiful, Nancy Wheeler.
As great as this show is, it definitely has an annoying habit of characters calling each other by their full name.
I've got your X-Men 134!
Like Will's gonna buy that, Dustin. You're not bringing out a mint-condition copy of Too Late the Heroes in a f***ing thunderstorm. Get your nerdy head out of your ass. Sorry, I went dark there. Horror show opens up on a dark and rainy night, cliche.
Where's your hair? You have cancer?
We've got cancer jokes, yo.
We went out to find Will, not another problem.
I think we should tell your mom.
Yes, they should. And how is it possible not one of these kids tells an adult? The thing about Stranger Things that has always bugged me the most is how they handle the 11 situation early on. This feels more like a generic sitcom plot device than anything that's actually interesting.
If I tell my mom and she tells your mom and your mom...
Oh man, our house has become Alcatraz.
And look, I know it's been a while since I was a kid, but certain things trump a fear of grounding. And I'm pretty sure freaking out, scared, speechless girl with blood on her shirt is making that list.
Is that real? Sorry, I've just never seen a kid with a tattoo before.
And I have zero knowledge of personal boundaries, so there's that. Escher and Hawthorne Duffer continue to avoid using their first names in the credits. We, however, will not abandon our responsibility to provide names for them.
You think I don't know my own son's breathing?
Yes, exactly. With the headspace you appear to be in, I'm not sure I'd take anything you say without an entire salt mine of salt. My point is, Ryder is making a choice here, and it's great, but it has consequences for our empathy for the character. First, you test my patience by only using 3 Eggos in a 4-slot toaster, and then you eat them without any kind of butter or syrup. And Mrs. Butterworth is standing right there! Show doesn't know how to Eggo correctly.
Hey, what's going on?
Brother, sister, footsie? Okay, last mention, but it deserves another sin. 11 just told Mike that people were literally going to kill her and him, and he still doesn't mention it to his mom. That's a level of tweening that I just can't comprehend. 1 episode later, and Matthew Modine's hair is still a sin. Intense door closing.
What if he slept naked?
Dustin is just the best. One of the things Ignacio and Jarvis Duffer got right about this age is how obsessed preteen boys are with sex without even understanding it. And teen boys and young adult men, and you know what, just add a sin for all of us. No one will be seated during the 11 is seated sequence.
All the best stuff's on there. Joy Division, Bowie, Television, The Smiths.
Wow, the Smiths? That's some real older brother cred right there. Considering the Smiths barely had their first singles out in the UK in 1983, whoever the British version of Jonathan is might have vaguely heard about them, but I'm guessing that info hasn't made its way to Hawkins yet.
And you shouldn't like things because people tell you you're supposed to.
Like this very show, for instance. Radio Shack. Also, I guess it's possible this could be a parking space, but whoever parks there would have to back out in the middle of an intersection, so regardless of the probability, that's definitely a sin.
I gave Jonathan all my money for the copies for the posters. I needed advance.
For a show that only has 8 episodes in its first season, you wouldn't think we'd have a lot of time for the frazzled mom buys a new phone and begs for an advance on her paycheck from her boss for 3 minutes. And yet...
I need this phone and 2 weeks advance. And a pack of Camels.
Damn, we're only 20 minutes in, and there have been 3 instances where cigarettes have come into play. I don't even smoke, and I want a pack. I know it's the 80s and but can we cool it with the cools? Let me step out of the vehicle a little more pronounced and pause while glaring for a second, so you know I'm a little more important than these other guys in suits. Also, the upside of writing Sins is that it has taught me a lot. One of those things is proper hazmat suit technique, which in this case should be sleeves and pant legs outside gloves and boots and taped down. Otherwise, contaminants can easily find their way inside. The downside is that if I'm having sex, I now feel the need to duct tape the outside of the condom, and that's a downside for everyone involved.
His name's Yoda. He can use the Force to move things with his mind.
Mike just happens to pick the same power that Eleven will display later.
I won't tell her about you, I promise.
Considering how loud Mike is speaking, my guess is she already knows, or she's deaf.
If we get a call from over at Benny's, I think you need to get there right away.
No reason. I figured you should be in just as much suspense as the audience when it comes to what's happening at Benny's.
Well, I mostly dealt with strangers back then.
I called my job Stranger Things. Oh look, someone in 1983 somehow had Dish Network or DirecTV. I wonder if they'll dump it for Netflix in 1987. I'm pretty sure Newt and Lemuel Duffer had it written into their contracts that every episode must include kids on bikes, just so we're sure to get a bit of that Amblin dopamine hit.
No.
And this is definitely when the screaming starts. Wait, you're telling me they just keep befriending her and going along with it after this, even after she turned her powers up to 11? No.
Look, all I'm saying is maybe I'm not the asshole, all right?
Yeah, except you don't seem to be concerned about where Will is, so maybe you are. I swear to the Demogorgon we had this exact serving dish and plate set when I was growing up. Part of the reason the show works so well is because of little details like this. So I'm taking a sin back, because I swear I ate green bean casserole out of that exact dish.
For Will?
The one major character need Eleven has is not being discovered. In the previous scene, she had even used her powers to make sure none of the boys said a word about her. Now she's just wandering around the house like none of the previous 33 minutes of this episode even happened.
Can't ask a corpse a question.
Well, not with that attitude you can't. Miracle Max would like a word with you.
What is friend?
For all it does right, this show isn't exactly nuanced, is it?
He just wants to get in your pants.
No, he doesn't.
Nance. Seriously.
Barb would be great at TVSins. Although, if she were really good, she would have found a way to do rhyming sins with Nance, Pants, Romance, Chance, and Second Glance.
Tommy and Carol have been having sex since like 7th grade. It'll probably just be like a big orgy.
With 5 people? And no monkey waiters with grapes? Come on, Barb. You're just being silly at this point.
You ever feel cursed?
David Harbour's audition for Hellboy makes it into an episode. That seems like a lot of light for a trunk to be shining out onto his face. I mean, unless Jules' briefcase is in there, I'm calling Fordnanigans. Jonathan's convenient stroll through the woods is conveniently close to the convenient party at Steve's, where he conveniently wanders up on them after conveniently hearing a noise. Show uses alcohol and cigarettes to establish a bad boy persona cliche.
You are a cliche, you do realize that.
What the? Did she hear me? Hello? Nancy? Am I trapped in the upside down?
Chug, 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 chug.
I'm really thinking Tommy's motion here is much less chug, 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 and much more stroke, stroke, stroke. But whatever, Tommy H. You do you, literally. This has happened to me a lot. I go out taking pictures at the place where my brother went missing, hear a scream, spy on teens making out, and I'm compelled to take pictures of that instead.
Oh, no! 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 Oh, no, 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 no!
Oh, no, 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 oh, no, 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 no. I would give every sin back if Zelda Rubinstein showed up right now and told Joyce to tell Will that she's going to give him a spanking. While we wouldn't dare play Should I Stay or Should I Go, we assure you this is a case of the same song used in a previous flashback that just happens to be ready to play on cassette for maximum emotional impact. Just in case you've missed the complete Spielberg ripoff built into almost every scene, Mansfield and Norwood Duffer include direct homages as well. Considering Barb is the conscience of this show, I can't wait to see how she gets rescued by the end of the season and gets her "I told you so" moment. This is gonna be so good.
Oh, thank God we know the fate of Barb. I was really concerned that they were going to wait till much later in the series and that they would just show a random shot of her dead body. Glad that would never happen. Ah, yes, the horror tradition of cutting between someone getting chased or brutally murdered by a monster and a teenage sexual situation. Nothing weird or disturbing about that. I want my mommy. Also, we wouldn't dare play the music, but playing Foreigner in a love scene set in the 80s cliche. Despite having plenty of time between the sending of episodes 2 and 3, Oswald and Pembroke Duffer have ignored the public outcry to reveal their first names. Also, in case you were worried, I want to confirm, this theme still slaps. I don't know if it was the cinematographer, the DP, the gaffer, or Steve's parents, but it's nighttime and somebody needs to be held responsible for the amount of light entering this room right now. That's a lot of lamps. Who has this many lamps?
You don't need more lamps.
True. Are lamp interventions a thing? Lamp interventions? Interlamptions?
And just tell our parents we have AV club after school.
AV club? AV club? Every parent in the 80s knew that we have AV club was code for going to the library to look at bared breasts in National Geographic, right? Right?
You're gonna take out the Demogorgon with a slingshot?
Says the kid that only brought food. What, you hoping the Demogorgon has a peanut allergy?
First of all, it's a wrist rocket.
It is not.
Imagine all the other cool stuff she could do.
I guess by all the other cool stuff, you meant specifically levitate the Millennium Falcon, because you walk past all the other things lying around the room to get to the one object under a blanket in the corner. Also, nobody puts the Millennium Falcon in a corner.
If you get hungry, eat Dustin snacks, okay?
But Dustin brought all those snacks to give the group stamina for their mission after school. Mike is a dick to Dustin's snacks.
Michael!
Coming!
Screaming at your parents when they ask you to do a simple task. It's not cool, kids. It's really not cool. Nancy's caressing that trapper keeper so hard the 80s nostalgia will not be able to be contained any longer. It will burst out like a newborn child running rampant all over the pop culture landscape for the next 6 years and burn the essence of the 80s into every fucking piece of film and television that it can. Wait, what was this in here? And why do I have a desire to buy butterfly stickers? Damn you 80s nostalgia. Damn you to hell.
You're being paranoid.
I mean, maybe she is, at least about what's behind the intent of the stairs. But this girl is clearly staring daggers at Nancy, so I'd want to know what the is up with that as well. All she brought to class was her copy of Descent from Xanadu. Either she didn't show up ready to learn or the show deprived us of a lecture about the sexually irresistible Judd Crane.
Where's Barb? Shouldn't you know?
Writers have this minor character answering a question with a question to assuage any doubt that this high school is filled to the brim with assholes.
I guess we're gonna blow the Ruskies to smithereens.
The unnerving coincidence of the Cold War's greatest hits becoming relevant again as I'm watching this episode in 2022.
Can I help you? Yeah, we're here for a tour.
Why would Hopper start with this reason? He gives a perfectly logical explanation in a second about having to check the facility because it's a nearby location Will could have run off to. Why not start there and not come off as if you're up to something sneaky right from the get-go?
Like I said, you have to speak to Mr. Schaefer.
Let me shut off my engine and remove my hat because this is 1983 code for I'm friendly, but I also mean business. Devaluing this collectible by repeatedly smashing it into the ground. Taking someone's lazy boy for a spin without explicit consent. What's next, 11? You gonna eat someone's french fries without asking?
There are several sacred things in this world that you don't ever mess with. One of them happens to be another man's fries.
2 episodes later, and Matthew Modine's hair is still a sin. Believing this rat's nest of Christmas lights could ever be untangled. Pixar didn't happen. Thanks to this shot, I now know all about ring shank nails. Okay, maybe not all, but I know they exist and that this is certainly overkill for mounting some Christmas lights.
I don't know, but they're lying.
This they're hiding something cliche, underlying a shadowy government-funded conspiracy cliche, wrapped in a I love the story so I didn't really want to send it but I have to cliche. I'm no stranger to exercising the old power stance, but is there a reason to be standing so close to this equipment as it's being dropped into place? I mean, at that distance, your mini Modine's gonna need a hard hat. The quietness of this scene juxtaposed against the violence she experienced at the lab serves as the perfect expression of just how upside down Eleven's life has been compared to the relatively normal lives of everyone else. We see her being mesmerized by the simplicity of this world in the same way we're captivated by the supernatural aspects of hers. Hats off to the production team for making me see, hear, and feel this. Snooping.
I don't care what it is, it's disgusting. Just get it off the table.
He's not wrong, but they all should be equally disgusted that she has the same shoes on the table that have most likely graced the germ-infested realm known as the lavatory.
She's not a superhero. She's a weirdo. What does that matter? The X-Men are weirdos.
Mike would be the dungeon master at free period superpower TVSins.
What are you losers doing back here? Probably looking for their missing friend.
I love all the Stephen King vibes this show gives off. I really do, but I could have done without the it's a Stephen King story about kids, so there has to be bullies cliche. I think all of us could have done without that.
I brought you a casserole.
When exactly did casserole become the go-to? You're having a bad time, guess you need one of these food. For once I want to see someone having the best darn day of their life and their best friend shows up all like, heard everything was going great for you there, buddy, but wait, there's more. I brought you a casserole. Also, casserole.
You can find the corresponding microfiche in the reading room.
I've heard tales of this mythological microfiche and its ability to conjure information long thought to be lost, but to this day there's been little evidence beyond TV movies and the stories told by wise old bibliothecaries. Perhaps one day I'll journey beyond the stacks of historical fiction and into the fabled regions of the third floor at my local library, where sightings have been reported. But until I see it with my own eyes, I cannot stand idly by as this show claims the existence of the microfiche to be a fact.
The librarian.
Why not the librarian? I can see taking issue with the way Hopper conducts his personal affairs, but your specific concern regarding this woman's vocation makes about as much sense as my insistence on using the word bibliothecary. This fiche is on for so long, I'm not sure why they didn't name the episode Gone Microfishing.
Let me throw in that casserole, okay?
You brought the casserole to the Private Lives of Pippa Lee's Winona Ryder Uncooked? What the f***, Karen? Since November 28th was a Monday in 1983, either someone is going to be very late for an event that happened in 1980, or someone is being very optimistic about their plans for 1986.
Oh man, he is like totally trembling. You must really have something to hide.
Steve's being a little over the top here, but Jonathan isn't exactly the innocent. Those photographs are creepy and definitely not approved by the photographees. And I hate that Quizno and Remington Duffer are actually making me side with the kids beating up on the weakling. Did a few good men teach you nothing? Throwing the one guy up against the wall can be justified as a fight or flight reaction, but the snapping of the neck is very brutal. I would dare say too brutal for the child protagonist that we're supposed to be rooting for. I love subtle period touches like this Nelson bench designed in 1946. However, I'm completely taken out of the scene by the fact that thanks to a resurgence in the popularity of mid-century modern furniture, this bad boy now costs over $1,500. Thank you very much, Herman Miller. No one will be seated as Ottoman New York's Winona Ryder paints the alphabet in real time. Talking, running, driving. Excitement? Hey, Phil, how can we show the seriousness of this scene where the kids are following the cops to the body? I don't know, Gary. Maybe we have them, I don't know. Each ride their bikes through a puddle that we'll have a close-up shot on? Phil, this is exactly why they pay you all the money. Genius!
It's Will. It's really Will.
Siegfried and Tristan Duffer thinking anyone's actually going to fall for this Will's dead fake out, when we all know it was just an excuse for the beautifully stylized ending of this episode.
Whoever you found is not my boy.
Guess I'm removing a sin straight out of the gate. Joyce's reaction to her experience with the Christmas lights, the Demogorgon coming through the wall, and then moments later hearing about Will's body being found is the perfect balance of frantic, terrified, and hopeful. Winona's pulling off a top-notch performance in this series. I'm here for it.
He was talking with these.
Talking.
That feeling when, as a viewer, you know the wild rambling is true, but all the characters in the story rightfully think the wild rambling is just wild rambling because it sounds, well, wild. While this does a great job of putting you in the shoes of the sane character, it just doesn't feel good. The bright light over their heads is a reminder that the house does, in fact, have electricity. Joyce can't afford cigarettes, but she can afford the expensive light bulb with selective electric currents that scan the room and amplify dramatic tension. Or maybe the lack of lighting is a tactic to attempt to hide the chaos clutter in the house. No, I'm not blaming the people for the mess. It's the bulb's fault for giving them that if you don't see it, you don't have to deal with it vibe. F***ing Stranger Things bulb, man. Okay, last mention of the lighting situation. But it's pretty clear from the light streaming in from the bathroom window that when Joyce was outside, she should have been blinded by whatever bulb is attempting to mimic the f***ing sun. Blind.
I thought we were friends, you know? We're friends to tell each other the truth.
Kids are so dumb. They blame everyone else for their own inability to process and manage emotions and letdowns. Super glad we grow out of that phase as we age.
What you did sucks. Lucas was right about you.
Not only does Mike survive saying this to a person who can snap necks with their mind, but he also does not immediately apologize when he finds out that Eleven was telling the truth, even though he now knows that it was him being the asshole all along. You know, maybe I've been focused on the lack of first names for too long now. Maybe the names are actually a hidden secret message just waiting to be found. Oh, shit. What does it mean?
You can stop by the video store on the way back, pick out whatever you want, even R-rated.
Yes, because the thing a grieving kid needs to have is a good old jolt of R-rated adrenaline. I guess the show needed another reminder that we're in the 80s when parents didn't give a shit about scarring their little ones for life by inviting a boy and his dog into the subconscious.
Lucas, do you copy?
I'm surprised that he eventually does copy. The antennas on these old radios, fully extended, would be like 4 feet long. So while I'm not saying that Mike and Lucas wouldn't have any reception at these lengths, the show is still definitely overlooking the one situation where size does matter. I guess some two-way radios will allow the other person to cut in, which totally eliminates the need for over and out, which is clearly the coolest part of communicating in this way. Also, why are these two fully dressed and already back in bed?
You mean about his funeral?
Over. No, not his funeral. Screw his funeral.
I'm surprised to screw his funeral works and getting Lucas to comply with his request. But I'm even more surprised Mike didn't say that he has some new evidence that Will is alive instead of keeping him in suspense. Using this muted color palette at a coroner's office. Just because the people are dead doesn't mean your sense of style has to be.
He has a birthmark on his right arm. Can you show that to me, please?
You know what the show never does? It never shows us the birthmark on the Will doll. If there's no birthmark on his arm, then everyone should be suspicious of this Doppel-Will. If there is a birthmark on Wibbleganger, well, my sinful question is simply, how? How did the assholes from State know about Will's birthmark? Was his body scanned by someone before he popped into the underbelly of PG horror? What the f*** is the Hawkins police badges symbol anyway? It's like the department had to compromise with the person who wanted a dangerous-looking weapon and a nature lover obsessed with dandelions.
Ma'am!
Yelling angrily at a woman who was just asked to identify the body of her son.
When you talk to the cops, just don't mention the beers.
Thinking anyone cares about the beers in a town with an ever-increasing missing person problem has got to be the prototypical teenage boy equivalent of eating an apple. Because this scene doesn't move the plot forward as much as it paints Steve as an asshole.
I know it sounds crazy. I sound crazy. Yeah. You think I don't know that? It is crazy.
Word-for-word dialogue of me explaining why Michael Bay's remake of Ambulance is a modern-day masterpiece makes it into the show.
I am not going to stop looking for him until I find him and bring him home. I am going to bring him home!
No offense, Mom, but Choice is not my mom trying to find a way to bring me back from a dark dimension in this scene.
Will is alive!
I see we have the ever-annoying shout the absurd truth that no one believes until they believe you cliche at play here.
There is no way we're gonna get the weirdo in there without anyone noticing. I mean, look at her.
I know it was the 80s and gender stereotypes were all the rage, but this need to make Eleven look pretty in pink seems more about cramming in your homage to E.T. than it is about anyone actually being concerned with her appearance. You know how when you drive a car at night with the interior lights on, it can f*** with some of your vision? This helmet is giving me those vibes. They're high beams hugging his cheekbones and lighting up the entirety of his field of vision. What the use is that? It helps us see him, but I highly doubt he can see much further than a few feet in front of him, unless this was designed for us to see every one of his pores, in which case the helmet lights are great. Matthew Modine's hair is finally covered in this scene.
Good luck in there, son.
This red shirt thinks he's going to survive this.
And Kurtz's life was running swiftly, too.
Nancy Wheeler?
Mr. Struppelmuffin doesn't respond to this interruption with, "What the f***, Principal Pumpkin Scruffle? It's hard enough teaching Joseph Conrad to these insolent little shits without you busting in here like the tater flipping Kool-Aid man." The school's decision to keep score at Will's memorial assembly may be the strangest thing in this episode.
I'm listening. No, you're not.
Not listening to the person you're accusing of not listening while they are actively listening. This show has set a standard that all lamps in the kids' rooms must be on. Now I'm suddenly very upset that this lamp isn't on. No one will be seated as Nancy stitches together a picture with an important detail that's located on an intact portion that does not need to be stitched together at all. The show wants us to believe that when Nancy hastily picked up some of these ripped up pictures in the previous episode, she managed to get all the pieces needed to put this one of Barb completely back together. And I want to believe that one of the writers definitely pulled this out of there upside down. Also, taping the top of the picture rather than the back of the picture.
Reel him back in!
But slowly. Like, super slow. My yelling may make it seem like reeling him in is urgent, but just, really take your time.
Will was an exceptional student and a wonderful friend to all of us.
I believe Will is a good kid and even an exceptional student, but there's no way he had time to be friends with the whole school, let alone be a wonderful one.
Look at these fakers.
They probably didn't even know his name till today.
Faking what? These expressions of boredom? Every one of these kids was forced to be at this assembly just like you. So just slow down there with the judgments, boys. It's kids who circle the entire gymnasium to get a better view of a fight that grow up to cause a mile-long slowdown on the freeway because they can't avoid looking at the accident. Just f***ing go.
Didn't you listen to the counselor, Wheeler? Grief shows itself in funny ways.
Writers don't realize the potential of their Funny Ways spinoff. And 1 cent for me because Perfect Stranger Things was there the entire time. We all want to think that Troy pissed himself out of fear, but deep down we're all pretty sure Eleven used some sort of telekinetic catheter to force pee from this poor kid's bladder. And while we all hate Troy, I don't believe we'd wish this on our greatest enemy.
Hey, what's going on here?
Principal Coleman says this 15 seconds after the laughing began. 30 seconds after Troy's death threat.
You're dead, Wheeler.
And almost a full minute after the entire gymnasium began to go silent. When any seasoned school admin would know that this many kids being quiet is a telltale sign that the proverbial pudding cup is about to hit the overhead projector.
I don't know what your budget is, but over here we have copper and bronze.
Selling things to grieving people.
Your mom, she said you'd be here.
Stalking.
He didn't have
a face.
I need to address the elephant in this episode.
He didn't have a face.
But he had no face.
This refusal to ask the important questions like, did it have eyes? And does it have human grace? Deprived us all of the painfully appropriate Billy Idol B-plot we all wanted. And me personally of the opportunity to say, les yeux sans visage cliché.
Odontologia.
Ah yes, July 15th, 2016. The day Google saw a spike of interest in tooth pain and doubled down on ads to dentistry nationwide. Suckers. Whoop, the hair is back.
She's finding him.
This is crazy. Calm down. She just closed her eyes.
Sure, we as the viewers know she's locating Will right now, but Mike and Dustin do jump to conclusions way too often, and Lucas really doesn't get enough credit for his insistence on empirical evidence.
What is that?
Seems about 10 years too early, but I'm pretty sure it's the first track off the Upside Downward Spiral. When Joyce tears the wallpaper and sees Will on the other side, she doesn't immediately get the axe and try to break through the wall. I know it can't work for story reasons, but not even trying till it's obviously too late leaves open the possibility that it could have worked and makes the scene very frustrating to watch. I applaud him for being proactive and attempting to subdue the flames, but Dustin is shooting the front of the radio with the extinguisher when the back is obviously on fire. My vintage stereo receiver once suffered a similar fate as the Heathkit, and while I chose instead to flee with my life, I found my knowledge of the flame's location very helpful in my hasty retreat. Given the time period, there's most likely asbestos somewhere in that wall, and this type of demolition is a big no-no. Stephen King is staring right into the camera in this scene. Part of me loves Hopper. Part of me is angry that he doesn't drag the out-cold body of the state trooper into the room so his shenanigans aren't easily noticed. I'd be so good at covering up crimes. Wait, Hopper's about to find out that this is some kind of Jim Henson Muppet version of Will. And while the surprise isn't completely lost on me, I have to say that even a casual fan of CSI Miami would have been made suspicious by the lack of a Y incision. And I'm not saying that I know anything about actual autopsies, but if the shadowy group behind the cover-up was more detail-oriented, they could have fooled me for at least a couple more seconds. And by shadowy group, I of course mean Uriah and Voltaire Duffer. Also, we're all glad that he cuts into the Will doll because it gives us some closure that all of this isn't in Joyce's head, but go with me here. How do we know that stuffing bodies with stuffing isn't just a normal thing that happens? Like, does anyone ever double check that this is abnormal? All we want right now is for Hopper to tell Joyce that he checked the body and believes her, but instead we get Lonnie. Previously on The X-Files. Being somehow oblivious to the 6'3", 245-pound man sneaking about your laboratory. Look, I get that Hopper knows some shady shit's going down, but to be honest, the consistency of said shit is totally unknown to him, which makes walking into this quarantined area without any sort of safety gear an extremely questionable move.
It's Jim Hopper. Chief Jim Hopper.
Yeah, I've got Jim Hopper.
Okay, the radio someone to confirm I'm meant to be here bluff enabled Hopper to disarm the first dude, but I've got no idea how he managed to get the drop on the second guy, who really should have already had his gun ready to go.
Drink. It'll calm your nerves. Help you think straight.
Yes, please give me the thing that makes it illegal for me to drive to help me think straight. Even in the 80s, this was known to be dumb advice.
Don't look at me like that.
What?
Like how everybody is looking at me like I'm out of my damn mind.
Considering the thing she's claiming is that a demon monster stole her child while she was communicating with him through a membrane to a nightmare dimension hidden in her living room wall, a couple of sideways glances are probably fair.
You remember your Aunt Darlene?
No, this is not that.
Well, then here's a sin for not giving us a flashback of that one time crazy Aunt Darlene beat up the milkman, mailman, and garbage man on the same day because she thought men in uniform were challenging her authority. How am I supposed to calculate the level of Joyce's sanity if I don't have an example of Aunt Darlene's peak craziness? Will. 5 episodes in and Matthew Modine's hair is still a sin.
Upside down.
What'd she say?
Upside down.
What?
Upside down.
Come on, kid, say it one more time. You might be able to summon the Beetle Gorgon.
This is where Will is. The upside down.
Like the Veil of Shadows.
Also, something that's always bugged me is how our favorite nerds manage to nail what the upside down is based on the smallest slithers of information they've gathered so far. I mean, all they know is that Will is missing somewhere that's dark, strange, and sort of familiar. They combine that with 11 saying upside down and make the leap to extra-dimensional mirror land instead of assuming Will is being hung from his ankles in his own basement.
The Veil of Shadows is a dimension that is a dark reflection or echo of our world.
And to top it all off, this belief is reaffirmed by a literal work of fiction.
It is a place of decay and death.
As opposed to our regular dimension where nothing ever decays or dies. Also, Dustin narration. I wish I had Hopper's ability to let my sense of adventure take over my sense of self-preservation. No dusty, decay-flaked hallways of an underground lab can stop this man. For where there's no Will, there's somehow still a way. I guess you can't get a good read of the situation unless you stimulate at least 4 of the 5 senses. Despite having plenty of time between the sitting of episodes 4 and 5, Waylon and Zayden Duffer have ignored the public outcry to reveal themselves.
Take that down. It's inappropriate.
Evil Dead poster shaming.
You look nice, sweetie.
Complimenting someone who is going to a funeral on their choice of clothing. This room is lamptacular. Kind of get the ones on the bedpost. I mean, they're pretty cool, but why did Will's room also need one here and here? Damn it, I bet that globe is even illuminated.
Just wait till we tell Will that Jennifer Hayes was crying at his funeral.
For anyone who thought Sam nudging Steve to check out Sharon Carter in Captain America Civil War was the most inappropriate funeral scene ever, Stranger Things would like you to hold its dry Eggo waffle. Paranoid character tears up their house looking for recording devices cliche. Oh, cool. And a random blade works as a lockpick cliche. One more cliche and I get a free you'd better come take a look at this bumper sticker.
What, you can tell someone, but they're not gonna believe you. You know that.
Your mom would.
Jeez, Nancy, learn to read the room. This is not an appropriate time for a your mom dig. Also, if his goal is to make sure his mother doesn't go through any more trauma, could I be so bold as to suggest not risking the life of her last remaining offspring?
But what if, right next to our acrobat, there is a flea? Now, the flea can also travel back and forth, just like the acrobat. Here's where things get really interesting.
They do not.
What are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing?
Being the worst handyman ever? First of all, hanging some drywall would have helped the hole on the inside of the home, and then the boards can be put on the outside until you can get someone out to repair it fully. Second of all, nailing 8 nails in a cluster on the right and 2 on the left is all kinds of Tim the Toolman idiotic and gets you 2 extra sins.
I told you not to take these down.
They were in the way, babe.
Calling any woman that you aren't in a relationship with babe.
Do you even understand how a compass works?
No one understands how a compass works, Dustin. No one.
But God help me, I will keep these lights up until the day I die!
My yearly outside Christmas lights mantra somehow makes its way into this episode.
I cried for a week. Jeez. Well, I'm a fan of Thumper.
This kid is alive during the golden age of Disney animated movies, and his favorite character is from Bambi? The year's 1983, which means you have movies like Robin Hood, The Jungle Book, The Rescuers, Peter Pan, and The Fox and the Hound. Yet you reach back to a boomer-aged movie to grab your favorite character from? Get with the times, kid. You'll be left back at Black Cauldron while we're watching Toy Story.
I guess he and my mother loved each other at some point, but...
Skip! This is not how you answer a phone. I know technology's changed, but as a child of the 80s, I can assure you the correct procedure is to state, "This is the Hopper residence. My brother is a fart nugget. How may I direct your call?"
How do we know when we get to the gate?
I think a portal to another dimension's gonna be pretty obvious.
Dustin would be Zool at TVSins. Minority reporting your child.
Yesterday with the Cameron, he's not like that at all.
Yesterday? Episode expects us to believe that only a day's passed since Steve broke Jonathan's camera. They found Will's body and had a funeral since then. Get the f out of here with your yesterday, Nancy.
Oh, I was just starting to think you were okay.
Believe it or not, I actually have a limited amount of skips per episode, and if this show isn't careful with the amount of divorce drama, alcoholic cop drama, and teenage drama, I'm gonna have no skips left for when we eventually send Euphoria.
Maybe the gate moved.
No, I don't think it's the gator.
Why? Why couldn't it be the gate messing with the magnets? It could be underground, a mile in the sky, or the fucking car over here. Dustin, my dude, you're easily the smartest kid here, but you have zero clue how this gate will present itself.
Admit it! First blood. I knew it. Lucas, come on! I saw her wiping her nose on the tracks. She was using her powers.
Admitting to being able to have done this interrogation hours ago, saving enough time to find the portal and my desire to send the rest of this episode.
Okay. Should be okay.
Or you could leave the f***ing house, right? I mean, this is the sort of search you can never be satisfied is complete. Is this a watered down Cerebro? These scientists must have never read an X-Men comic. If you want to infiltrate people's minds, all you need is a big room, a bald head, and the desire to sit.
It's been hit by a car.
What car do you know of that has teeth? F***ing Nancy. This stray could be in the middle of Disney World, and Penn Jillette could be inside tempting me with a pack of Oreo Thin Mints and a Brad Bird signed edition of The Incredibles, and I still wouldn't crawl into the damn thing. But Nancy just goes right on in, all alone, as if her friend's younger brother and her own best friend weren't missing and presumed dead. Yardley and Zane Duffer entered the previous episode with Nocturnal Me by Echo and the Bunnymen, knowing full well how committed we are to the binge, and they had the audacity to not open this episode with The Killing Moon. Jonathan. Also, Nancy is now running around like she doesn't know she's in the over easy and that if she wants to get back to the sunny side up, she's got to crawl back through the gooey tree. We all know the rhyme. The one who crawls through the gooey tree has pressed their luck and now must flee. And if tomorrow you wish to see, crawl your ass back through that gooey tree. Also, after running around in every which direction, she somehow manages to end up at the correct gooey tree, unless there are multiple gooey trees, which would have also been incredibly convenient.
Oh, really? Because no girl would ever blow off King Steve.
Okay, these Stephen King references are just getting weird at this point. Also, we wouldn't dare play the music, but Corey Hart's Sunglasses at Night was a mega hit that was released as a single in 1984. Therefore, it wouldn't be getting radio airplay near the end of 1983, which is when the first season of Stranger Things takes place.
I'll just be a minute.
Steve will ascend so stealthily up to Nancy's window, which is all well and good. But if you're trying to be all I Spy with your late night meetups, how about not leaving your car parked on the street with the headlights on and the futuristic singings of one Corey Hart blasting out of the radio?
Yeah, it was a drawing of an adult and a child. It said 11 on it.
I suppose these two dashes could be an 11, but you looked at this for a few seconds and reached this level of certainty? For all you know, these could have been tally marks, which would have made this mean 2. Or it could have been the letter I twice, which would have made it mean I.
It was a kid's drawing, Joyce. It was stick figures.
Wasn't Will.
Ah, yes, the old my kid's a better artist than your kid defense. It's been causing headaches for all defense attorneys since the stick figure incident of 1937.
I mean, what if this whole time I've been looking for Will? I've been chasing after some other kid.
Hopper chooses to say this to the mother of the kid he apparently hasn't actually been looking for.
Can you just come up here?
Sure, but just in case you're curious, that will be a gun in my pocket.
You know, it can't get us in here.
Jonathan might be right, but how in the name of the Upside Down would he know this? Jonathan's a dick to factual reassurance. Continuing to show the poster for The Thing will not make it any less of a sin. No one had a poster for The Thing in 1983. We're a good 10 years from reassessment and realization that theater goers were idiots in the summer of 1982.
Yeah, I got a pen.
Having a pen but no paper. You know what a pen and no paper gets you? A smeared name on your hand that you won't be able to figure out 3 minutes later. You'll wonder if that's a lowercase d or possibly part of an uppercase B, but you'll never know because you forgot the paper, Hopper. You forgot the paper. Now comes the awkward part where Jonathan has to confess he wet the bed because he was afraid of getting caught in the hallway by Nancy's parents. And then Nancy says she knew it happened 3 hours ago. And then I have no clue which one of these characters I'm more concerned about.
Every time I close my eyes.
It's like a dark paradise. Oh, sorry, did I just black out in Lana Del Rey again? I hate it when I do that. I mean, oh my heart, it breaks every step that it takes. Damn it.
It's always alone, like a bear.
While most species of bears do generally hunt alone, they can exist and live within close proximity to each other, meaning Nancy has no way of knowing if there are more than one of these things, and it's odd that she's not even considering that a possibility.
But if it works,
at least we'll know it's coming.
You have zero knowledge of what you need to do to protect yourself from the monster, but hey, at least that similar to a shark theory will be correct. Good choices are being made here.
I made some blueberry pancakes.
Putting blueberries in pancakes, or adding anything to them for that matter. They're f***ing pancakes. Why are we messing with perfect foods?
Your mom doesn't knock.
Your mom doesn't knock. See, Nancy, that would have been the perfect time for a your mom jab. Everyone in Indiana being overly committed to this one design element.
Mike, this isn't your fault.
Yeah, it's Lucas's.
That's sanctimonist. Well, I hope so.
No way, I'm not shaking his hand.
Like, I really hope so.
All three of you were being a bunch of little assholes.
Dustin would be the dictator of assholes at TVSins.
Today is a very special day.
You're finally getting a haircut?
Because today we make history.
OMG, he's getting a haircut!
Today we make contact.
He's not getting a haircut. Karen said she made blueberry pancakes.
I made some blueberry pancakes.
Yet I see no blueberries here or here. I see something that looks like blueberries here, but all the evidence suggests that she made pancakes and put blueberries on top of them. In all the ways that matter, these are not blueberry pancakes. And once again, quit f***ing with pancakes.
Okay. I'll shake.
I'm really more concerned about why Lucas wasn't immediately rushed to the hospital. Dude could have a concussion or worse after being flung by 11. I know we didn't have Will Smith movies telling us the importance of concussion protocol back in 1983, but still.
Do you seriously want to fight the Demogorgon with your wrist rocket? That's like R2-D2 going to fight Darth Vader.
Are you seriously going to act like that wouldn't be the coolest thing ever? Cue automatic door opening. Then rolls in a battle-worn R2-D2s, just taking out a whole battalion. No, that's too many. A platoon of stormtroopers. Darth Vader looks down and says, "I sense no fear in you," and deploys his iconic red lightsaber. Suddenly, 7 green lightsabers emerge from R2-D2's dome and expand like helicopter blades, rocket boosters emerging from the little robo-legs as they launch headfirst at Darth Vader in a spinning green glowing fury. I'm just saying Mike needs to get out of here with his weak sauce. Putting your Christmas tree up before Thanksgiving.
You know you have to pay for those.
Character had a perfect opportunity to use Lego My Ego in conversation and chose not to. Sudden Rachel from Pet Sematary. But the Pet Cemetery, and not the less Pet Sematary.
I told you you're wasting your time.
No, you didn't. You gave this cryptic answer.
But if you want Terry to tell you anything, you're about 5 years too late.
And while Becky is the main offender, Joyce and Hopper didn't ask any follow-up questions. Why is everyone in this scene wasting their own time? This show early on has really undervalued the character of Lucas, so seeing him gear up for a one-man mission to get his friend back is giving me all of the feels. But also, getting Rambo'd up in a movie or TV show either made in the 80s or set in the 80s cliche.
They'd pay, a couple $100 to people like my sister, give them drugs, psychedelics, LSD mostly, and then they'd strip her naked and put her in these isolation tanks.
My awkward explanation of the plot of Altered States to my mother somehow makes its way into this episode. This is a cool but unnecessary flashback montage designed to explain to us everything we've already put together about Eleven's past. And since no one in the room has firsthand knowledge of what happened at the lab, this awkwardly becomes a flashback of the viewer's experience, and I don't like the creative license they're taking with my perspective.
You read any Stephen King?
The show doesn't care so much whether or not Joyce and Hopper have, as much as it wants you to know that the writers did. The handle of this hammer is just hanging off the edge, waiting for someone to brush by and end up with a broken toe. I feel like we need more backstory on this guy. He just isn't putting in the effort anymore. Look at the signage. The 2 racks on the right are guns, sure, but the one on the left is mostly ammo and raccacoonie.
Last week, I was shopping for a new top I thought Steve might like.
Wasting time and money on clothes you think will make a high school boy happy. You want to make a high school boy happy? Show up to where he's currently at. That's it. Steve and the rest of the high school cliches were able to get away with spray painting the front of the movie theater in the middle of the day, and they hung around afterward to deface even more property. Even if I let go of the fact that they don't even appear to have a ladder, this scene has more contrived vandalism than the Tate Modern. Also, Nancy conveniently pisses off Steve on a week that All the Right Moves is playing at the local theater. What would he have done if it was the next week when National Lampoon's Movie Madness replaced it? Try to use a Nancy the Slut configuration with that title.
He assaulted a police officer.
Is raising up not realizing someone is behind you and clipping their nose with your shoulder really assault? I think the gasoline bullets and bear traps in Jonathan's trunk should be more concerning, but you do you, Hawkins police force. Eating untoasted Eggo waffles.
Hey there, frog face. Toothless.
Some would say, why did they drop their bikes and run? But this was the correct choice. Look at that terrain. They'd never get up to speed fast enough to get away, and there are way too many hazards to navigate. The sin here is the absurd convenience of Bulk and Skull showing up out of nowhere to trigger the conflict that results in Eleven also showing up out of nowhere to save Dustin and Mike.
Get off! Get off me!
Resorting to murder because you got your ego hurt on the playground.
Our friend has superpowers, and she squeezed your tiny bladder with her mind.
Okay, show, I called you out for the sheer cruelty of that scene in episode 4, but you just owned it.
Wet yourself.
Maybe not. Deus El Machina.
Yeah, that's right! You better run!
I get Dustin's happy he isn't being held at knife point anymore, but is he overlooking the fact that Eleven just broke that kid's arm? Couldn't she have just made the knife fly away or something? Despite all the security measures we know this place has, Lucas is not spotted. Show thinks the government in the 80s was combating conspiracy theories by letting the public draw conspiracy conclusions. Opening the episode with Mike cleaning Eleven's face like my mom after I've just conquered a double fudge banana split with marshmallows and whipped cream. But this touching gesture of face touching was probably not necessary since there's a mirror. Snog blocking. Also, writing in your own skip doesn't excuse the fact that a skip was needed.
The bad men are coming!
Thing the Stranger Things kids thought when they saw us getting ready to send the show somehow makes its way into this episode. Kids. The kids resolve all their issues and get the band back together in the first 5 minutes because they've realized they're stronger as a team and share a bond forged in the crucible that is grade school. But also it's the penultimate episode and they need to set up the finale. If you're already inside the police station, this seems a bit redundant.
There's something you need to see.
You'd better come take a look at this cliche.
What happened to her hair?
Being more concerned about Eleven's hair than Matthew Modine's. Wasting time building a model to describe a fenced-in plot of land next to a road with a building on it.
And this is the lab right here.
Lucas, that's a can. Circling, 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 still circling.
You risked your life. And Nancy's.
To be fair, going after the creature was Nancy's idea in the first place. Jonathan is a high school kid, meaning he just happens to do less thinking with his top brain and more thinking with the brain in his upside down. He probably cares about his brother and stuff too. Yeah, I'm sure it's more than that boner thing.
What is your name, deputy?
Asking for the name of a person wearing a name tag. It looks less likely these agents are collecting evidence and more likely they're planning a sleepover. The events of this season are supposed to have taken place in 1983, but Great American Ghost Stories by Hans Holzer wasn't published until 1990, and the dinosaurs went extinct about 65 million years ago. I'm definitely sending this ridiculous ladder placement. I get they had to get the stuff on the other side cleaned up as well, but now they're at a point where the ladder needs to be moved at least to the middle of the slut and wheeler. How's Steve gonna get any elbow grease into his cleaning routine from this angle?
We should be out there looking for him.
Honey, we have to trust them, okay?
Stranger Things does a pretty great job of having all the 80s goodness mixed in with some really interesting character work. So why did Ted Wheeler have to be a walking believes the government is always there to help you idiot father cliche?
Lado Calrissian.
Show thinks it's going to get away with us not pointing out that Dustin is pointing at the person of color in this scene while pointing out the person of color in another scene. And this is now a Spider-Man sin. I never noticed how closely this part of the score resembled John Carpenter, and now the scene is giving off series Halloween 3 vibes. I don't know whether to remove a sin for the Carpenter-ness of it all or add a sin because, well, you know, Halloween 3. So I'll add 5, because I'm me. Hopper subdues these 3 intimidatingly well-dressed agents very quickly and entirely off-screen, so the sin is for all style and no substance.
Is that my dress?
Everyone in this show is way too concerned about Eleven's hairstyle and what she's wearing. Mike claims to be explaining the upside down, but this drawing looks more like a person standing on the horizon next to a gopher hole.
I can find them in the bath.
Show proves that vague posts were not an original idea formed in the days of social media, and were actually preceded by vague comments like this.
Anything about sensory deprivation tanks? Specifically how to build one?
Mr. Clark appears to have the physical characteristics of a science teacher, but the show thinks he's a DuckDuckGo. And for those of you who have no idea what I just said, it's the same thing as a Google.
Why are you keeping this curiosity door locked?
I'm more curious as to why Dustin or any student has Mr. Clark's home phone number, even for the 80s. That's fucking weird.
Do you still have that kiddie pool we bobbed for apples in?
Admitting to bobbing for apples. Admitting to bobbing for anything, really. Using de-icing salt instead of Epsom salt. This show is a dick to 11's skin. Now that we're almost to the end of the season, it appears all characters have acquired enough XP to activate the squad boost on all talents, enabling everyone to complete their tasks in record time. Just like the saying goes, teamwork makes the nightmare stop.
Hey, wait. It's not gonna snow next week, is it?
Worst case, no school.
I feel like that was missing something. Sonny, run that back and hit him with the good stuff.
Hey, wait. It's not gonna snow next week, is it?
Worst case, no school.
Perfect. Why was it necessary to set this up in the middle of the gymnasium? Even if they had to come to school for equipment and supplies, why the very middle of the gym and not at least a little closer to your water source? Black voids with wet floors. I assume Ernest and Hansel Duffer killed off Barb to raise the stakes, but we weren't watching the show for stakes. We were watching it for the 80s nostalgia and the triumphant return of Barb. I demand justice.
It's okay.
I realize you just witnessed something horrifying that will probably haunt you for the rest of your life and you'll never get a good night's sleep again, but I really need you to concentrate on my son. Nancy will be able to make new friends. Hey, so Bobby, what are you thinking as far as making the Castle Byers fort look creepy in the upside down? Well, I just have one question for you, Hank. Have you ever wondered what it would look like if Swamp Thing burped the worm all over the place? Burped the worm, Bobby? You know, sprayed the pajama glue, circumjaculated the globe, spilled his Brogurt sundae, squeezed the... Okay, Bobby, I get it. Just order the mayonnaise and never speak to me again. I guess because we're in the last few minutes of the show, Jonathan is suddenly capable of sneaking in and out of the police station unnoticed. After that tense episode, I'm glad I can take a break from this show. Never mind. Guess I'm clearing my schedule for the next hour. Starting your episode on a star field just to make me jealous of places with little to no light pollution. I want to see the universe civilization. Stop progressing already. Show keeps Matthew Modine completely shrouded in darkness for the first 30 seconds, making us wait a full half-minute to sin his hair.
Its behavior is predictable. Like all animals, it eats.
I mean, sure, but not all animals eat children. And even more importantly, not all animals live in a parallel mirror dimension. So your predictions can go suck a slug.
Here's what's gonna happen.
Character in captivity tells their captors exactly what's going to happen before exactly the thing they said would happen happens exactly the way they said it would happen. Cliché.
You're gonna let me and Joyce Byers go. You're gonna give us anything we need, and we're gonna find her son. And then we're gonna forget that any of this ever happened.
This is the dumbest deal in the history of bartering, and there's no way the Modine Mafia would agree to it. How does Hopper expect to convince Joyce to not expose the bastards that faked the death of her son? How does he explain to the people of Discount Haddonfield that Will Byers has returned from the dead? There's bluffing, then there's bluffing when you haven't seen your cards, then there's bluffing when you haven't seen your cards and you've never played poker before, and then there's this. Gun loading, hammering, more gun loading, trap setting, even more gun loading. Home improvement? Also, shooting a close-up of how many bullets your gun holds when you don't intend on counting to 6 later. Also, thinking you can home alone a monster from the underworld.
You gotta give me your word. And those other 3 kids, those boys, you're gonna leave them alone. And I'll tell you.
Somehow jaded and pissed at the world, Sheriff Hopper believes that the shady government people conducting experiments on stolen children are also people likely to be worried about keeping promises. Also, if Hopper knows how badly Brenner wants 11 back, why didn't he leverage him for more help than just 2 hazard suits and a will went that away?
The atmosphere is toxic.
Oh, my son's in there.
Joyce would be an 11 out of 10 at TVSins.
It's Troll's favorite food, burritos!
Thinking trolls would choose to hunt in playgrounds for food instead of the YouTube comments section, or whatever the 80s equivalent would have been.
You okay?
I mean, I'm wandering through a gooey hellscape looking for my son, who may or may not be dead from toxic exposure after being kidnapped by the demon offspring of a Venus flytrap and a very angry horse. But other than that, I'm just swell. You? I get that the floating particles add some distinguishing eeriness to the Upside Down, but where's it coming from and why is it constant? Does the sky have dandruff? Do all the creatures just have severe eczema? Is it always winter and never Christmas?
Did you hear that?
It's just the wind.
Just the wind? Tornadoes are just the wind, man. Wind can mess you up. Do you even Wizard of Oz, bro?
Nancy.
Yeah.
Getting knock blocked.
Steve, get out!
She points the loaded gun at him and cocks it? That's dumb. Nancy's dumb. Or the show is dumb. Or the show is dumb for making Nancy so dumb.
What's it doing?
Asking a question to a room full of people who have exactly the same information that you do. Excessive and inexcusable egg examination is execrable, yet exhaustingly expected. Everything in the Upside Down will remind Hopper of his child because somehow it knows this is the season finale and that the writers forgot to finish telling us his backstory.
And for pity's sake, not to ask her any more questions. She said I must have asked her 1,000 already. I suppose I had to, but how are you going to find things out if you don't ask questions?
Ignoring punctuation, I mean, if I delivered sins like this, wouldn't it be incredibly distracting and difficult to follow? Because commas, man, how do they work? And actually, we know how they work and allow pauses so we can breathe and or give our brain some time to catch up and process what's being said. Someday, somehow, we're supposed to believe that Hopper reads entire books of his child this way and survives this? Finally, someone's acting reasonable and getting the ever-loving hell out of Hawkins the second the death creature from another world shows up. Wish more of these in. He's about to go back in, isn't he? The Demogorgon will now play older brother and pin Jonathan to the ground and hang slobber over him for a bit before doing anything because that's just basic predatory instinct. More like the Demogorgon, am I right?
What is the number of the daytime? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The number of the day is 9.
Showing off your bat spinning skills instead of immediately killing the flower-faced goo demon. So the plan here is to set the beast on fire for a few seconds and then immediately put it out? I get that you want to save the house, but shouldn't you toast that sucker for a little longer? I've seen marshmallows survive longer than this.
Where'd it go?
It has to be dead.
Yes, the interdimensional being that can inexplicably travel between your world and its own is definitely dead. Don't you dare let the lack of a body make you think otherwise. And of course, Hopper and Joyce arrive at the exact same hallway where the kids just had the Demogorgon barbecue. Did they bring the graham crackers and the chocolate bars for the s'mores?
Mike! I found the chocolate bunny!
Dustin's just the best.
She can make you whatever you like.
Eggos?
Well, yeah, Eggos, but real food too.
Shut your mouth. Keep that ego shade out of my 80s nostalgia, thank you.
Mike, friends don't lie.
But we do skip. I know that just following orders excuse doesn't mean these are good people, but I'm not convinced they all deserve to have their insides liquefied and that we should still be expected to root for Discount Dozen. I mean, she's responsible for more recorded deaths than the Demogorgon at this point, right?
11, can you hear me?
Holding a barely conscious child like this so that their neck is supporting their entire body.
What? What? What?
Attempting to clarify your statement by saying the exact same thing. Wait, where the f did Brenner go? He was literally holding his most prized experiment. Did he seriously run for the hills without taking her with him? Wait, he's still f***ing there? So he saw the Demogorgon burst in, dropped his weapon of mass destruction, got up and walked directly towards the damn thing as if he's meeting his date for the snowball? Pulling this thing out seems like a super risky move, right? They know the environment's toxic, so what if this is acting as some sort of disgusting life support system? No one's suggesting you leave him here, but let's take a minute to assess our options before accidentally pulling his insides to the outside.
Is it dead?
Asking a question to a room of people who have exactly the same information that you do. Also, the Demi Lovato Gorgons haven't received nearly enough credit for their impeccable sense of dramatic timing. For a creature that was quickly pouncing all the bad guys earlier, the Demogorgon sure does like to showboat around these kids, huh? Fortunately, I do not suffer from photosensitive epilepsy, but I imagine this is a thoroughly unpleasant experience for anyone that does. If I wanted to be flashed this much, I'd go to Mardi Gras.
No more.
Until the show becomes a surprise hit, then maybe we'll need something for another season or two, but nothing that would age our actors out of their parts for sure. I mean, barring some sort of worldwide pandemic. Pandemic. This periodic table includes a whole host of elements that hadn't even been discovered in the 80s, including Tennessine, which wasn't discovered until 2010. And f*** you and your fan fiction if you're going to come at me saying the Upside Down is actually a time portal to the future, because it f***ing isn't.
29, 30, now, go!
Wait, maybe the Upside Down is a time portal because it clearly teleports Hopper 30 years into the future here, since he's counting out a 30 compression CPR, which wasn't even a thing until like 10 years ago. Before that, it was like 5 compressions or so between breaths. And even in Hopper's flashback, they're screwing up the CPR, because they clearly show the EKG flatline later, meaning she already had a rhythm and CPR would be counterproductive.
I made you a new mixtape.
But didn't put a case on it? Guess we know who the real monster is now, Jonathan. This isn't causing Will to scream in agony after having his rib cage caved in by Hopper.
She squeezed her brains out
and blood was pouring out of her face.
And then these...
This is how 12-year-olds talk about a violent movie they saw. It would not be how they talk about real-life trauma they experienced, so maybe back it down a notch with the "how cool was it when all the heads exploded" repartee.
Fireball, the son of a bitch.
Even back in the 80s, the fireball spell required the creature being attacked to roll a dice to see if they can dodge it. So Mike should have rolled first instead of letting Will go straight for the damage. Just because he's had a near-death experience doesn't mean you go easy on him, dude.
The campaign was way too short. Yeah, it was 10 hours.
But it doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense.
No.
Ah, yes. The meaning of true fandom: to criticize the thing you love for being too short, too long, over-explaining, under-explaining, or just not exactly how you would have written it. But clearly this is anachronistic, considering TVSins didn't invent nitpicking until 2012.
Can I open it?
Yeah, sure.
No older brother has ever been okay with their younger sibling opening a Christmas present from the girl they have a crush on. This is quite likely the single most unbelievable thing in the entire show. You just had to put up some news articles, didn't you? Now I have to read them. So explain to me exactly what you mean by experimentations in perusal of mind control. Perusal? Did you mean pursuit? And sure, this could have been a typo, but over here you've clearly got the same paragraph twice. These small-town newspaper editors are lazier than the props department of a Netflix show.
Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay.
I could only assume that Will doesn't immediately tell his family about his visions or the upslug down he just coughed up for fear of being sidelined for all of season 2 as well.
We'll tell you about the game.
Oh yeah, I threw a fireball at him and dead.
Wait,
That's how you start that story? Not only is that the big finish, but your mom has no context for who him even is or why a fireball was needed. That's terrible storytelling, Will. You should get some tips from Matt and Ross Duffer. Matt and Ross. Those may be the dumbest names we've come up with so far.
It's been 84 years.
Time of the night, we turn on the black light. Let the Dungeons and the Dragons begin.
Boom. Boom.
Here comes the ready or not. Here comes.
Like Michael Myers.
I shot him 6 times.
Well, this is awkward.
Attention, faculty and students.
Attention to students. 2 students have just been expelled for fornicating inside a Mufasa costume.
You want anything to drink? We have OJ, skim milk, whatever.
Soda, OJ, purple stuff, Sun July. What is this place?
Nancy. What? You want to know who Fred Krueger was? He was a filthy child murderer who killed at least 20 kids in the neighborhood.
No, please. Please don't say that. I know I've been selfish, but I can do better. I can change.
Oh, Steve.
I'll have what she's having.
If you get hungry, eat Dustin snacks, okay?
Michael!
The meatloaf!
I heard they make space weapons in there.
Space weapons?
An industrial laser, which emits an extraordinary light not to be found in nature.
No matter what,
You got to strap.
I don't work with O'Bannon. Did I say O'Bannon? I meant...
Well, it all seemed a bit over the top to me, considering.
Considering what?
Never liked him. I never trusted him. For all I know, he had me set up and had my friend Angel Fernandez killed.
Okay, just when you talk to the cops, just
Tell them I hate them.
Listen, right at the dagger around the corner, right here on First Avenue, Mr. Charlie's is the name of the place, is the name of the guy behind the counter. And tell him Mr. Charlie sent you and he'll sell you cigarettes.
What's your name again?
The name's Bond. James Bond.
You're never gonna catch me. You're wasting your time. Forget about it. Go do something else. See you next year.
Hey, kid.
Would you please leave without a fuss right now?
Tommy, how's the peeping? Tommy, how's the peeping?
Tell me again.
Upstairs or downstairs?
Upstairs.
There were horses and a man on fire, and I killed a guy with a trident.
It was a kid's drawing, Joyce. It was stick figures.
Wasn't Will.
Booyah.
Meaning it's a predator, right?
There's no stopping what can't be stopped. No killing what can't be killed.
Why is he wearing handcuffs?
You two suck at peddling meth.
What happened to her hair?
Weak follicles, Leroy.
I understand how upsetting this is.
All I care about is, are you happy with your haircut?
Hey, what's your problem, man?
Even smiling makes my face ache.
You took my boy away from me!
Give me back my son! Sweaty Pie-Hole! Como se llama? Gary Clarkson!
You're just a junkie. Small town cop who had a really bad week. Took one too many pills this time.
But once you get locked into a serious drug collection, the tendency is to push it as far as you can.
Look, everything that's happened here and everything that's gonna happen, we don't talk about. You want Will back?
You didn't see anything.
I still think we should stick to the Chief's plan.
Oh, hell, let's just do what we always do. Hijack some nuclear weapons and hold the world hostage.
I don't feel so good.